Will Compton wanted 4 quarters of you football, and that's what he got. The defense that was so good these past few weeks didn't show up, and the offense looked about as good as they did last year after Casey Thompson went down. The stadium was damn near empty going into the fourth quarter, and Matt Rhule finally felt the shame that a million plus Nebraska fans feel almost every weekend. That's the quick summary though, and to be honest, that's all that performance deserves. There are still 7 games left, and a bowl game's in reach if this team can put a streak together. So today, you're running the show. I'm taking a bunch of questions from the comment section, and I'm answering the best ones. But what's up, guys? I'm Connor Hayden, and this is Corn Crazed. If you're a fan of Nebraska or the Big Ten, hit the subscribe button, because if you're still here after all this bullshit, you're just as sick as the rest of us, and you need my free counseling sessions a few times a week. And if you still have hope when it feels like you shouldn't, hit the like button now and help us get to 1,000. But now, let's get into it.
Thompson winds up, goes deep, got a man, touchdown!
I just got back from my 3rd trip to Lincoln in the last year, and even though this game might have been the worst one of the last 3 I went to, the overall experience was by far the best. When I'm home in LA, I live my life like any other normal 30-year-old who's just grinding out life trying to build a business. But when I'm in Nebraska, my life's lit, and it's not lit because of me, it's lit because of you. The amount of love and support I got on this trip and all the positive comments and appreciation for the community we built was a 10 out of 10. But then add in everybody who went out of their way to make sure I was taken care of. My tickets to the game, getting in free to bars with covers or berries when the line was over an hour long. All of the shots I took with people who I've never met but felt like I knew so well. All the tailgate invites I got but couldn't make it to. I just want to say thank you again to everybody for looking out for me, because for most of my life, I had no friends, no relationships, and no ties to the program and city I love so much. And now I finally get to feel like it's my second home. I was walking out by the stadium an hour before the game, and I ran into Adam Carricker, who I hadn't gotten to meet in person yet, but another dude who does a lot for our channel and needs to come back on for a conversation soon. If you haven't had a chance to check out his website, carrickerchronicles.com, make sure you do, because they're helping me put out weekly content all season long so you don't have to pay for it. The site's got all of Adam's content in one place, so you won't miss anything that he puts out. And there's a Corn Craze section on there too, in case you miss any of my uploads. We've got a lot of questions to get to, so I'll start here. You still got Casey Thompson in your intro. Details matter. Look, I want to change it to Sims or Harburg or anybody else who deserves it, but that intro spot's got to be earned, and you don't earn it against NIU or Louisiana Tech. Somebody's got to step up in a Big Ten game that they win to overthrow the last dude who got it after a 14-point Big Ten win. If you had to go to dinner with 3 current players, who are you sharing a meal with? Jeff Sims, because I got questions about the offense when he was in there and why he thinks it started so slow. Luke Reimer, because he worked his way from walk-on to face of the defense. And Thomas Fedoni, since I know he loves Nebraska football as much as we do. If given the opportunity, would you design Nebraska's next alternate uniform? I'd make them fire. Think Louisville's all-red uni with the red socks, red cleats, and all that. And then add in the sea of red at night, it'd go crazy. If we're being honest, are these really Scott Frost players? Matt Rhule took a lot from the portal, and it's molded a lot more like his program than Frost's. Even though Michigan's a playoff contender, that game should have been more competitive. It's an interesting question, but 66% of the players listed in the 2 deep played for Frost, so a lot of these guys still count as his. And it's so hard to judge a coach that takes over a program, since they need a couple classes to get guys with the right mentality for what they're trying to build and obviously the right skill set. But even then, the blowout didn't need to be that ugly. There are plenty of issues, just like there were when Frost took over in 2018, when the same thing happened and they lost against Michigan. But don't forget, after that Michigan loss, that team bounced back and they finished with 4 more wins. So that means Rhule can too. Do you think Illinois is a must-win for a bowling season? I wouldn't call it a must-win, but if I was to put a percentage chance, I'd say 70% chance they bowl with a win, but only 30% chance they do with a loss. And the drop's so big because Illinois is really bad this year. So if Nebraska can't bounce back and beat those guys, they could struggle against Purdue and Michigan State, who are both must wins. Biggest thing you're looking forward to seeing improve over the next 7 games: mental toughness. Guys could have given up last year when they were losing, and it felt like fans didn't believe in them, but they battled back and they finished the season with some really close games and a win over Iowa. Now, does this team have that same toughness, or are they as drained as we are as fans? Does Harburg become a starter for 3+ years? You got to assume this team's going to get better every year, which means his job's going to be harder to keep with new QBs coming in and maybe some transfer guys showing interest since the NIL money's really good. And the staff doesn't want their QB running this much long term, so he's going to have to take a leap as a passer if he wants to keep the job. I'm going to say 3 years as the starter is a long shot today. Do you think that Notre Dame is going to flip Carter Nelson? My understanding is that he's turning down all their efforts, even though they've been all in on him now that Nebraska's struggling. Right now, I'm more sure about Carter than any other recruit in this class, but we all know the portal exists, and it's a way to get out if things don't go in the right direction. So I'm not going to say he'll never end up at Notre Dame, just that he won't end up there as a true freshman. What's Nebraska's most reasonable and likely path to 6 wins? That's actually a really good question, especially since Cade McNamara's done for the year. There are a lot of ways this can go since the schedule's disgusting, but I'll pick this one. Lose to Illinois since it's a road game at night and both Singleton and Reimer are going to be out. That means they'll still need 4. You got to beat Northwestern at home off the bye, then Purdue the next week, and then on the road at Michigan State. They'd need 1 more of the last 3 against Maryland, Wisconsin, and Iowa, and you already know I'll take them to close out strong at home to seal the deal. Am I crazy for thinking 6-6 or 7-5 is still a possibility? Do you think we try any of the younger guys on the left side of the line? Which coaches have impressed you so far, unimpressed you? Are you going to any more games this year? And favorite fast food? You're not crazy for thinking they can win more because all the teams left on the schedule have just as many issues to work out as Nebraska does, and they're not going to be able to solve those issues this year. The left side of the line is what it is, but I don't think they have anybody who can do better, so I think it's all Teddy and Turner. Raiola and Satterfield have both been underwhelming. I think Tony White's been good. Terrence Knighton gets some credit, but everybody else is still up in the air for now. I'm going to Georgia at Tennessee this year since I've never been to Knoxville. No more Nebraska games till next season, and I don't eat fast food outside of Chipotle, but I do like Runza when I go to the games. If Oregon is Nike U, how do we get Nebraska to be Adidas U in terms of multiple uniforms? You know, Oregon had to find a gimmick to build their brand, and with Phil Knight and all the Nike love they get, the alternate uniform deal fit their school perfectly. Nebraska already has a brand, even though they haven't been living up to it. So to think they'd ever do something like Oregon it's not realistic. Is Sims staying another year if Harburg is given the starting role? That's crazy to think about since there's so much of this season left, but my gut says Sims would still have the edge to win the job next year, even if Heinrich finished 2023 as the starter. They want the more proven passer long term, and Sims was that in practice all offseason and would probably be told to stay for that same reason. Will we have a first-round pick in the next 5 years? I'm going to go with yes. You've got Carter Nelson, Cam Lenhart, Prince Will, maybe a transfer, another big recruit comes in over the next 2 years. All those guys have super high ceilings. We know Rhule's track record for developing NFL talent, and 5 years is a crazy long leash when we're talking about the NIL money Nebraska's going to spend to get some of the bigger name recruits. A few questions. What are some similarities and some differences between Rhule and Frost year 1? Going into the offseason, what players other than QB should Rhule focus on recruiting? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how satisfied would you be with a 5-7 season? I think the main difference is that Frost came in super cocky and he believed Nebraska could win right away, but he got humbled during that first year. Rhule knew this was going to be an uphill battle, so he's been honest with everybody and tempered expectations since he knows his goal is to completely rebuild the program from ground zero. Frost was focused on building a winning team, Rhule's focused on building a winning program. I'd say the most important position groups are the O-line and the receivers. O-line loses almost everybody, so they need depth bad, and receivers only return Alex Bullock and the freshmen who've barely played. Think about how much worse those units would look right now without any of that senior leadership. And on a scale of 1 to 10, 5 and 7 would put me at a 5 on the satisfaction scale. I'd be frustrated, but the sixth win should have been Minnesota, and that's about where I expected this team to be for me to feel okay about how year one went. O-line does not seem to be improving. How much longer does Rayola keep his job? I don't think Rhule wants to make any coaching changes until after he gets a few of their own guys in to develop. So I'm not expecting any changes to the staff until the end of next year at the earliest. But he'd for sure be the first one to go if they continue to struggle. Will we ever be back to relevance? I'm slowly thinking no, unfortunately. You got to remember, it's all about getting the right staff and enough players who fit what they want to do. TCU moved from the group of 5 to the Big 12 and made it into the national championship game. Kansas was the worst program in the country for years. Yes, worse than Nebraska. And they've been in the top 25 back-to-back seasons. And Nebraska has all of the makings of a contending program. They just have to get the right guys who can execute what these coaches want them to do. Hell yeah, Nebraska will be relevant again. I can't tell you when. Why did I choose to root for this team, and why do I keep coming back? It's like I said the other night, we didn't choose to be Nebraska fans, because if we chose it, we could just stop. It's in our DNA. You were either born into it or you got pulled in because you went to school there and you fell in love with everything that came with the game day experience. I know it's an unhealthy relationship right now, but it's going to make the good days feel so much better after going through all this BS to get there. What did you think of the oven? I'm sure your California restaurants are better, but it's decent Indian food for Nebraska. Next time you got to try Honest Abe's. All right, so I love Indian food and I go with my friends at least once a month. And the first time I went to the oven, I saw way too many white people working there. So I definitely questioned it. But now that I've been 3 times, I can tell you it's pretty damn good. And the other night was no different. Everything we ordered was great. My friend loved it and I'll definitely go back because the other option was sushi. And something about sushi in Nebraska just doesn't sound right to me. What's your opinion on Marcus Satterfield? This is really hard because he's forced to work with what he inherited, and they're really limited on the line and at receiver, so it's all about running the ball and basically being one-dimensional. He hasn't done anything to impress me yet, but I'm still going to wait to judge since we don't know what the offense would look like if they had a decent line and if they had a QB who could make the throws. Is Fleeks going to be the number 2 behind Grant, or will Emmett Johnson claim the spot? Well, right now it's Fleeks on the depth chart, but Johnson's been playing that spot a lot longer, so he has a chance to get reps and take the spot at any time if Fleeks was just a one-hit wonder against Michigan's 4th string. I guess right now we've got to say or assume it's going to be Fleeks. At what point in the year do we play the younger players to give them experience for the future? I don't think they'll do that at all. Rhule knows who he wants to redshirt and who he's going to give 4 games to, but he also said he respects what the older guys have done and doesn't want to take away from their moment. So if somebody's underperforming, I can see young guys stepping in late if the bowl game's out of the question. But I think this year they're going to play whoever gives them the best chance to win and not just throw away games to let young guys get experience. If you had to guess, is it more likely we see Jeff Sims as next year's starting QB or somebody else? Well, right now we haven't seen any of his positive traits outside of one big run at Colorado. So I'm going to have to assume it's going to be somebody else. I'm not sure why you came to Lincoln. If you want a better team, don't go to the game and show them we aren't happy. Look, even if we show up for the losses, they still know we're not happy. So it's your choice. Sit at home by yourself or go to a massive party with 90,000 other people with a similar interest to have a fun day. I obviously chose the latter. I did as many as I could, but I'm getting tired, so I'll answer more in our live stream this week. But I want to know what you think, so let me know in the comments below. Did the Michigan loss change your outlook on the season, or was that just another L that you saw coming? Are you pumped up for a Friday night road game, or do you like Saturday slots better? And who's your favorite player so far this season? I'm going to have to go with somebody on the defense, but I'm waiting until after this week to make my final decision. But that's all I've got for today. So until next time, thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Go Big Red.